Our clock is wrong on the wall, but it is 6 p.m. So I'd like to call the meeting to order for March 22nd. If you could please rise, we will be doing our Pledge of Allegiance. And Councilmember Musgrove, would you care to lead it today?
Yes, thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could please remain standing, we have Tracy Moss from North Coast Church here this evening. Hello, Tracy.
Hello. Thank you, Ms. Mayor, for this opportunity. Will you bow with me? Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to call people for a meeting. We thank you for each and every one who is here today. You have blessed us with supportive people who seek the welfare of your people, of your church, school, and businesses. Loving Father, we thank you most of all for being here in our midst. Let your presence be made known and lead this meeting today. Thank you, Father, for we know that you are always here to support your people, and we give you thanks and praise for the opportunity. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, you can be seated, please. And our next item is roll call. Mr. Skullick.
Councilmember Musgrove,
Present.
Councilmember Nunez,
Present.
Councilmember Walton,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Jenkins,
Here.
and Mayor Jones.
Here. Okay, next order of business is our consent calendar. Do we have any items that any council members wish to pull?
I'd like to pull item number 6.
Okay, do I have a motion on the balance?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item number 6, Councilmember Nunez.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, first of all, I'm really glad to see this item on our agenda. I think it's related to item number 4. I think one of the biggest issues that we have facing our city or region or our state or our nation is really the lack of housing affordability, lack of housing access. So I'm really grateful that we have this item in front of us. But at the same time, I think I would like to hear, and I think our residents would like to hear specifically about the challenges that face us. And in particular, this project that has been pending has come before us several times, and as a city, we've invested quite a bit of funds to go towards this project, and I'm happy to continue to support the project and the amounts that we're being asked to contribute, but I would like to hear either from the city or from the developer really to walk our residents to where we're at, in a brief, where we've been, where we're at, and really what we can expect to see in the near future. So that's one aspect of why I pulled this particular item. The other reason I pulled the item is because in the materials that we've received in the replacement housing plan, I see 2 dates on there, April 2019, and then it shows that it's updated December 2021. And so based on what we've been presented, I can't really quite tell what has been updated. So I'd like to find out, are there certain challenges that we've encountered that weren't anticipated when this item was last in front of us? So that I would find that helpful. And I did get a chance to confirm with our developer National Corps that there are no changes to the housing relocation plan. And so if we could get confirmation that that is the case, right, that we will be able to relocate our residents.
Candy?
Thank you, Councilmember. I know Mr. Seymour's here. He's going to share a little bit about, I think he can share a little bit about the first question you have. In regards to the replacement housing plan, the changes that were made were primarily to the timeline that's on one of the last pages. The one in 2019 spoke to a preliminary plan of different types of financing structures and funds that were thought to be used and amounts. So it needed to be updated, not necessarily changed as far as the unit structure, but the entire plan had to be updated. And because of that, we did have to get a second approval on that. So that was the only thing needed there. And as you mentioned, I think Mr. Seymour spoke to the relocation plan. But as far as the build out and the opportunities there, I'll have Mr. Seymour speak to that and the challenges that come with that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Thank you, Candy. I'm John Seymour from National Community Renaissance, and we've been a partner in San Marcos, I think, since the mid-'80s and the early '90s. Tonight, as part of our team here, we have Barbara Lemus, who's our regional property manager. All of the on-site managers report to Barbara, and then she reports to the Senior Vice President of Property Management. And then we also have Stephanie De La Torre, who is our Programs Director for Hope Through Housing Foundation. And Hope is our sister nonprofit that brings social programs on site and coordinates with other nonprofit in the area to bring services to the residents. And if we have time, I'd like them to speak too, Candy, if that's fine. But to answer your question, we are under construction with Phase 1 of Villa Serena. As you know, it's 136 units. We had to bifurcate the project into two separate projects, just like Mariposa and just like Westlake Village and everything else, because of the financing mechanisms don't allow a complete new construction project or demolition and new construction. It's impossible because of the financing sources. We'd like to do it all at once, believe me. So Phase 1 is under construction, is going well. We're on time, we're on budget. Phase 2, Villa Serena, we hope to start in March of 2024. That's the timeline that you referred to, council member, in the replacement housing plan that staff put together. March of 2024. That's pending two more applications that we need to make. We need to make, after your approval tonight, if you approve this, that gives us the green light to make two applications. One to the County Innovation Housing Trust Fund for about $3 million. The County Innovation Trust Fund is governed by the County Housing Authority, and we would need your assistance, a letter in support of our application. And then once that's approved, we would go for another $3 million from the County Home Fund Notice of Funding Availability. And San Marcos is I think they call it, Candy, a participating jurisdiction. So the city is eligible to receive funding from that source. So the timetable is approval tonight, County NOFA for home, County Innovation Housing Trust Fund, whichever comes first. Then once we get those sources nailed down, we would then proceed to tax credit financing. And you all know, Mayor knows, been around a while, the tax credits are just as competitive as everything else. So just to give you an idea, County Home Funds, Innovation Housing Trust Funds, they're oversubscribed by like 3, sometimes 4 or 5 to 1, which means there's $4 of requests when there's only $1 available. And so many affordable developers have to come back and apply, and that's what we do. That's the business model, and we're not proud of that at all. We would like to just go into a pot of money and start the construction immediately. So March 2024 is our timeline to hit. That's the goal, that's the target. As far as relocation goes, that plan has not changed. We have our relocation budget. It's working well. We're working with the residents, on a daily basis, it seems. Barbara, if you could come up and give an overview of how our relocation is going, and then Stephanie, you can talk a little bit about what we're doing for our residents. Before Barbara speaks, is there another question, council member, that you may have on the financing or the replacement plan?
No, thank you for walking us through that process. I think it's certainly very helpful for me, and I think it's helpful for our residents to hear what we are doing to help with the affordability and availability issues. I know it's something that I get to see up close. As I think you know, it's something that it concerns the residents, particularly the residents of District 1. They're very much impacted. And so I'm very glad to see that we're moving forward, at least taking very positive steps towards increasing our housing affordability stock. So thank you for being here, and I definitely want to hear from the other two individuals that are here today.
And before Barbara speaks, again, why we're doing the destruction of Villa Serena and the new construction is because it's old and it's aging. It's all 1s and 2 bedrooms. There's 1 3-bedroom. The community wants more 2 and 3 bedrooms, and so we're adding, I don't know, close to 200 bedrooms, 25% 3 bedrooms, 25% 2 bedrooms. So we're going to have larger family units. We're adding parking, and we're adding brand new community room, efficiency, and sustainability. Consistent with your climate action plan. All those things are baked into that Villa Serena new project. Barbara.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Hello, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Barbara. I'm the new Regional Property Manager for North San Diego. So I was made aware of the roadblocks that were in place during the first phase. I do want to let you know that we have learned and we have a different game plan for phase 2. So our plan of action is, constantly educating and reminding the residents about their waiver. They do get reminded about that during their recertification and all new move-ins. We also have in place of 1 year prior to lease up, we will start hosting monthly community meetings, monthly newsletters, so the residents are constantly informed of the demolition for phase 2. We will be relocating those current residents either to Villa Serena phase 1 or one of our sister properties, also working with the neighboring communities in San Marcos.
Thank you.
How many residents do you still have to relocate?
For phase 1,
Yes.
none. They have all been fully relocated.
And for phase 2?
Right now, we have 58 residents with a waiver. We do have some vacancies, so they'll also be getting the waiver at the time of move-in.
And what's the timeline for those residents to be relocated at this time?
So right now, it's a little unclear. It just depends on the lease-up and then the date of construction. So the lease-up for phase 1 and then the beginning of the construction for phase 2.
And maybe it's tied to the same, but would residents be receiving notices to start relocating this year? Is it possible?
No, sometime, if not late next year, 2024.
Thank you for that
Thank you so
update.
much.
Just a clarification on that. So you are applying for the financing in, I think it was June of 2023, yes. And you might want to answer this, John, I'm not quite sure. But there are sometimes issues, I'm not sure where you're at on that list of applying for tax credits for San Marcos projects. If that doesn't end up happening, there could be a difference in the timing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And that's one thing why I asked that question, Councilmember Nunez, is it is extremely complicated, and with the death of redevelopment back in 2012, it made the financing and how difficult the competition is so much greater that it really puts the developer in a tough position, and then we're just kind of waiting, and so the homes will be built as soon as you can secure that financing, and then, so if it's not June, then that will push the March date out a little bit further as well.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. How many times are the residents notified? It seems like there's several times they're notified that this is going to happen.
Yes, so if they're a new move-in, they're notified prior to accepting the unit offer. At the time of application, they sign a waiver, and then if they go through their recertifications, they're also made aware at that point in time.
So there could be several times. So they
Of course.
know if they're moving in that this is going to happen.
Of course, they do.
There's no surprises.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Barbara, real
Sorry.
quickly?
Councilmember, yes,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Barbara, you seem to have a pretty good grasp of what's going on there, and I know there's a lot of moving parts, but when you talked about the newsletter and that, kind of that issue with the notifications and when they would be going out, do you convey that as a general process across the newsletter and then individually for those who are directly affected? So they're
So-
so that they're not caught off guard with 30 days' notice. They're given ample time to make arrangements because there are school district issues and maybe some work issues involved.
Yes, sir. So 1 year prior to lease up, we'll be starting the monthly newsletters, giving them that opportunity to, really think about, do they want to stay in the city of San Marcos, which is what we're hoping for. We also can help them properly plan if it's relocating to our Via Serena Phase 1 or if it's relocating to one of our sister properties. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. My name is Stephanie De La Torre. I am the Regional Director for Social Services for Hope Through Housing, who is a sister agency for National Core. So currently, we provide services throughout San Marcos on all of our properties, from after-school programs to financial literacy. We've been really big on pushing vaccination events and hosting vaccination events, working alongside Councilmember Nunez and other affiliates throughout San Marcos. Our role, actually, we're excited about Via Serena Phase 1. This will be allow for a greater space, community space for residents. In Phase 1, my team and I, we played a role in terms of helping residents with job placement, with assistance as they needed it in their transition and relocation. Part of what we do as an organization is we work collaboratively. So early on, like Barbara said, this time we'll be doing it a little earlier. We did it last year in the midst of when we were probably pretty much on lockdown and a pandemic, which made a lot of challenges for us and for the residents. So moving forward in 2024, hopefully it'll be a little different and a little lighter in the relocation process. And so that's it.
So in looking back, some of the challenges you face with COVID, one aspect to it, but it seems like the finances tend to drive the timeline. So COVID has an impact on finances exclusive of what you're doing, but then it does impact when you start moving. Does that sound right?
So it's about right, yeah. I mean, because pretty much as an organization, as a social service agency, we didn't stop services, we just didn't have a lot of in-person. So what we did, we continued to do after-school program with Boys and Girls Club of San Marcos. We continued to do food services, one-on-one counseling. It didn't stop what we were doing, we just did it a little different. Now we're back in person, we're fully committed to the services on a higher level than we were during COVID.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I do.
Okay. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Did you have one more question? Go ahead. Sorry.
First of all, thank you, Stephanie, for being here today, and thank you for the work that you've been doing. I know that the last 2-3 years have been extremely challenging, and I know you've gotten to see it up close yourself, as I have. So the question for you that I have today, and you don't have to answer today, but I do want you to think about, as a city, how can we help that on-the-ground work that you do so well, right? That you do to provide the residents. How can we improve? How can I help you? How can we, as a city, help to improve that work? I know Hope Through Housing has been a recipient of some of our grant funds. So the question for me is, do you need additional funding? Can we support? How can we support as a city? How can we help to improve the lives of our residents that I know have great needs?
We always need additional funding. We're a nonprofit. I think one of the things this year that's really come great is I've gotten to know Candy a little more, and we've been able to coordinate. Even to address our mission is that we service our residents, but the issue of homelessness and housing is what we do, right? So even residents that aren't our residents, we're able to provide that support as well. But I think continuing that relationship and that collaboration between us is important, and, and we work together. And I know, Randy, we're also on a committee together. So I think as we address the issues that our community faces together, that we'll just continue to do that. But yes, more funding is helpful. So thank you.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that it?
I have a question for John, actually.
Okay. John, come on down, please.
Perfect, thanks.
So you touched upon this just briefly, so it kind of opened up the opportunity to ask this question. The state puts a great deal of importance into building affordable homes, but they don't put a whole lot of money behind it. So in your opinion, what do you see, how do you see that changing, or do you? I mean, you've been doing this for so long, you're one of the experts in our community. How does that change?
Well, there's a couple of funding sources right now in the state that are drying up pretty quickly. They had a source called transit-oriented development. It's all dried up. Infill infrastructure grant will be dried up by next year. They have a really nice source called Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities, and we are working right now with a broad-based group of people to be able to get San Diego its fair share. We're getting 2% of all the money, and we should be getting, by basic formula, 8%, and we're not. And it's all about greenhouse gas and where the best bang for the buck is in terms of the state's Strategic Growth Council. It's a little wacky, if you ask me. Fact of the matter is that if Southern California got its fair share, we would be able to be doing a lot more housing down here. And we're working with the governor's office, we're working with our legislators, but to answer your question bluntly, the state keeps imposing on the cities, and your affordable housing developers keep the pipeline robust. That's our job. And then the city comes in with the little resources that you have and funds it, and now we have to go to the county, and we have to beg over here and have a bake sale over here, and then we got to go to the state, and the state's monies, most of those monies go to San Francisco, and they go to Los Angeles. And so all of Southern California is like just clawing its way to get those monies before they even get to the tax credits. So I don't know the solution, but housing has got to be one of the priorities, because without housing, you don't have a healthful life. Your kids can't study. Housing is like a basic foundation for families of low income and moderate income, and even for the wealthy, right? And so the state really needs to step up in terms of the money that they are, and really bring it down here. I mean, bring the money down here to the county, bring the money down here to the city, because the city, you know how to spend the money and you know how to allocate that faster, more efficient. So those are the issues that we're facing, Council Member, in a nutshell, really quick.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Councilmember Nunez, did you have a motion?
I have a motion. I'll move to approve item 6.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to oral communications. We have a few speakers. The first would be Lynn McGraw, followed by Hank Ngoravate, followed by Kelly Reber. And then there will be more after that, but I'm just, the first three, if you could just get prepared. So Lynn's first. Hello, Lynn.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I want to thank you people for being able to go ahead and help us up as far as like assisting us and being very, very staying informative as far as like what we've got going on. We're hoping that we can go ahead and get something basically put together before you guys have to step in and do something. We did have 4 inspectors that came out, and I want to thank you for the fact that we got them very timely and very, very much wanting to do. The problem that I saw was they didn't have anybody with them to look at what the areas really were that we had as an issue. Number one, again, like he said, affordable housing, and the fact that we, want the rental control. The 4 individuals that came basically didn't have kind of like a guideline to show them what was going on. We are a senior park, so we have people that have lost their significant others, so their income is cut in half. We've had people there. I moved in '07, and we've got several other speakers that, since it is a senior park, we have a lot of people that have significant health problems. Maybe not right this moment, but we'll be developing. And they'll be talking and telling you what's kind of going on. I run kind of the food thing that we put on through Feeding San Diego, and we had a monumental amount of money, or foods basically today, and they're basically gone by the end of the day. And so we've got a lot of people that come in and depend on us going ahead and putting the food out there, which tells me they don't have the money to go ahead and buy what they really would like to have all the time. And the Summit Church is the one that we go through as far as like getting the foods, and they deliver 2 times a month. And then we've got people that run down to Summit and pick up food to kind of augment and set out so that they can go ahead and come up if things get tough. The pictures that some of the guys took as far as like what was going on with the park weren't totally representative of what we've got going on. We had several pictures that we saw that they sent to us that were the cement driveways. And one was basically furnished, and she got that in January, and she's the president of the HOA. The other one was next door, and he put the bill for his own driveway because it was a hazard, so he paid $3,500. Another picture was of another rental another property that was built, and she had the cost of her driveway put in the building itself, so it was absorbed into her monthly payments. If they had only turned around and face the other side of the street, they'd have seen the driveways that are our issue. And they're requesting like $30,000 for 2 driveways, which I don't know. You know, if it were me, I'd be trying to put together 3, 4 driveways when somebody's there. And so some of the monies that they're requesting, to me, they're not doing very good stewardship of what they get. We've all paid our rent for the last 2 years with the COVID and everything. None of us have missed that. So there's no reason why they couldn't go ahead and do just the necessary repairs that would allow us not to have to worry about things. The potholes in the street, and then the street actually deteriorating is really bad. And we've got Monique here, she'll talk. She's got a road that looks like gravel out in front of her, and of course she's on a chair, and her doctors request that she basically, and she's at the pool every day. She uses a pool, and then she gets ready and she goes and tries to use a jacuzzi, which some of you have seen what the problem is, because she doesn't get up and walk at all. It's just from her chair to the pools. So in actuality, it makes it hazardous health-wise and safety-wise for her not to have things set up for her and for other residents, because we've got quite a few people that do have wheelchairs and or power chairs and use walkers in our park. I just hope that we can kind of get things pulled together before it has to go any further. But anyway, thank you for your consideration. Take care.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, the next speaker is Hank Ingorvit, followed by Kelly Reber, and the next speaker after that will be Matt. Can't really read your last name, Matt. But you're from Rancho, Dorado, so you'll be able to find your way up here. Okay. Hank.
Thank you, Mayor and Board, for having us, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to talk about Rancho Dorado. Basically, it has to do with the traffic concerns. I'm a 22-year original homeowner there, and recently back in actually January of 27, 2020, I addressed, I think, your board here, and then I was told to go to the Traffic Commission, and I went to the Traffic Commission, and then I wrote them a letter. I was told to put everything in writing. So I submitted a letter about our traffic concerns, and the reality is I really wanted to be proactive about doing something about the speeding before we have a serious accident. So one of the things I suggested is that we put in some speed bumps, and the speed bumps, they said that the fire department doesn't like speed bumps, and I said, well, there's speed bumps behind your building here that have been approved by the fire department, so we don't want anything that's anything different than that. Then the other thing is that we have 3 crosswalks, 2 on White Sands and 1 on Coast. And in Leucadia, they've raised that area just a little bit, so people would have to just go over it where that would slow people down, where people go walking across, and there's a lot of runners that we have and people with bicycles and stuff like that that use those. So anyway, the whole idea is that we do something proactive before we really have a problem. I know that somebody was saying that they were going to put in some lines, and I've talked to several different people about any kind of lines that you could put in, and the biggest response that I've gotten so far is that, you know, today's people that are driving go through red lights. They don't stop at the stop signs. So the only thing that's going to really slow them down is to do something like putting in a few speed bumps. So I just wanted to present that to you. Maybe we can be proactive before somebody gets hurt. We have a lot of young families that have moved into the area, and a lot of kids are starting to play in the streets.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
So you know that this is not an agendized item, so we can't really talk about it, so I don't want you to think we're ignoring you, but staff will be reaching out to you. Just wanted to make sure that you left your contact information for them.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
And I have the letter that I submitted, and
Do you have that with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then you could actually give that to our city clerk. That would be great.
okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, next speaker is going to be Kelly Reber, followed by Matt, sorry, I don't know your last name, followed by Brad Ayano. And then there are still more speakers after that, so those will be our next 3. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, thanks so much for having us here. I'm also part of the Rancho Dorado community, so as you heard, there's going to be several speakers here tonight. You know, we've moved in within the last 2 years. I have a 2-year-old in the back who's trying to stay quiet for this. And I'm also pregnant with another one, so you can see why this is near and dear to our heart. We live right on the main thoroughfare of Coast, so for those of you who aren't familiar with our neighborhood, we actually connect through Coast to White Sands, which then connects Rancho Santa Fe to San Marcos Boulevard, Palomar Airport. So, you know, there's quite a few cut-through traffic. They just put in a new Amazon facility there as well, which has increased our traffic. You know, when we first moved in, it was COVID, so we didn't have a lot of traffic there, but we've definitely noticed it increasing. And there's been situations where I've had my daughter out and people have almost hit us. You know, we've had people who don't stop at the stop signs right now. I've had the stroller out when I'm coming and someone's just come around and cut us off and almost hit us before. People have passed me on the left as I'm trying to turn into my home and honked at me. People have come out and yelled at me as I'm trying to turn into my driveway because I'm driving too slow in my own neighborhood, which is following the speed limit. So it's a huge safety concern for me. You know, we moved into this beautiful home in this great neighborhood with great schools, you know, really hoping that this would be a place that we could be long term. And it concerns me. You know, I don't think she could ride her bike out there. I don't allow her in the front yard. I mean, she's 2, obviously, but I worry about even when she's older, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting her be out in the front yard. So There is a concern there with safety. We feel very passionately about that because we see our family growing here, and it's disheartening to hear from other community members who've lived there for 20 plus years that this is still a concern, and I think it's only getting bigger as the community grows. They're putting in so many new homes that it's just going to increase the traffic. So they've done studies. I know people are going to speak to that, and the line striping, I mean, I don't know what the effectiveness of that is, but I can't imagine that it's really going to be enough to deter people from driving quickly, because we have stop signs right now and people blow right through those. I mean, I've almost been hit before. I have a small dog. I mean, I just have a hard time believing that a stripe is really going to make people slow down. So that's all I have to say about that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, next speaker is Matt. Sorry, I don't know your last name. Followed by Brad Yarrow, and then Keith Kretz is after that.
Am I allowed to hand these out?
You can give those to our city clerk, and they'll pass those out. And my apologies, Matt, for not being able to read your last name.
Terrible handwriting.
I even put my
apologize.
glasses on. I tried.
Awesome. Thank you all for allowing me to speak in front of you tonight. My name's Matt, Kelly's husband, resident of Rancho Dorado on Coast Avenue. As Kelly mentioned, and you'll see from the packet, my first initial phone call to the city was November 1st, 2020. If you can go back one day, that's Halloween. The amount of speed we had on Halloween night that was through there, we were celebrating us moving in, our first big holiday, and frankly, my in-laws and my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, they just said, hey, we got to get off this street, I'm sorry. And buying our dream home, that is what triggered it, just because of the amount of speed, and it's 22 years of just consistent habit. So you'll see from the handout, I've been working with the city, the traffic engineers, since November 1st of 2020, have probably over 100 emails exchanged back and forth. And what we've come up with throughout the time is quite a few different studies. And unfortunately, the biggest concern for me, you can see on page 3 there, there's a main stretch of coast, and it's unfortunately where we live, but it's a straight downhill stretch, wide road. And unfortunately, we have not able, even after speaking in front of the Traffic Commission, we have not able to been given accurate data. You can see from the red lines, that is, the top one is at the very top of a hill. As you're cresting, naturally going to slow down. And the other is coming downhill around a bend right before you're about to hit a stop sign. The most recent study that they did, and I was told it was placed in the most accurate location, was around a bend of a curve on Coast. And the Traffic Commission specifically said, hey, Matt, we agree, it should be placed right in the center. So we're getting inaccurate data, but still, if you take a look at the data, which is on, going back to page 2, we're having speeds of 44 miles an hour at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Average, but they don't, 80th percentile is what they always refer to. We are continuing to see speeds of 34 miles an hour. I had the chief engineer tell me during the Traffic Commission meeting, they expect line striping to reduce the speeds by 1 mile an hour. 1 mile an hour. And he flat out said, so if we're going to have a reduction of 1 mile an hour, now you're talking about the 80th percentile, 33 miles an hour on our roads, and that's acceptable in what standard? I'm not sure, but that to me, especially having speeds of, again, 44 miles an hour in the middle of the day, and that's on all 3 streets that were tested. So I've got major issues with the data that's been collected, and again, they are making their suggestions based off of those their recommendations based off of the studies, and if they're not pulling, in my opinion, the most I would say high rate of speed, we've got, I think, a bit of an issue. I put an actual picture of, you can see the speed tubes, I think that's page 4. That is right in front of a traffic circle. So you would all assume traffic is either going to be slowing down, reaching that point. So again, there's some frustration there. Going into the next page, you can see Waze, Google Maps. If you're going from Lake San Marcos to Target over there, the Target's actually in Vista, it has Google Maps and Waze have you cutting directly through our community. You'll also see at the very back of the packet, in 2001, the San Diego Tribune actually wrote an article about Rancho Dorado and the cut-through traffic and the speeding going through our community. So this is going back to 2001, and unfortunately, the city is actually suggesting just a 1 mile an hour reduction after a 20-year issue. I don't think that lines is going to cut it. I don't. It's 20 years of habit. Folks, I know for a fact my brother lives in San Alejo. His street knows Rancho Dorado as the cut through to the secret target, because that target in Vista is a bit hidden, and we know that actually happens. And so again, my ask is to allow us to come up with a better suggestion than lines. I know it's a difficult community because the terrain, wide roads, but there's got to be something stronger than a 1% reduction. There's a lot more in the packet, but please look at the local cities around us that are way more aggressive on traffic calming than San Marcos, Encinitas specifically. There's other cities that have portals to allow you to log in, ask for a study, and put in those traffic cushions. So again, thank you all for the time, and greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, and great packet that you put together for us. Brad Yarrow, followed by Keith Kretz, and then John Mosier.
Hi, Mayor. My name is Brad Yano, also a resident of the beautiful neighborhood of El Dorado. I'm new. I've been here 8 months. I like the area that we're in, and we've been explained that this line going down the middle of the road is actually going to slow traffic down. To me, putting a yellow line down the middle of the road is unsightly. It doesn't add to the beauty of our neighborhood, and from the studies that's been done, it won't slow down traffic. If we think that a line of paint will slow down traffic or even stop traffic, there's already a stop sign right there on Coast and Island. Nobody stops at that stop sign. A few people do, local residents do, but we are talking about the parade of people that actually pass through our streets. Don't know the suggestion, or don't know the final thing to do here, but the whole point is to reduce traffic speed and do something, look at studies, do something to actually slow this down. I like the theory of a speed bump on the road, probably something physical in the way that would actually stop or at least slow traffic to a safe speed in our neighborhood. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to make sure too, have all of you, do you have, sorry, I do have to ask you a question, so maybe you could just come back up if you don't mind, Brad. Is there like a group leader that maybe our staff could reach out to that?
I think Matt would probably be the best person to talk to.
Okay. Oh, well, hopefully he's not being voluntold.
No,
But,
no, I think he is. Actually,
okay.
he's willing.
Could
so.
you make sure you leave your, okay, perfect. Just wanted to double check. Okay, thank you very much. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Okay, next is Keith, followed by John Mosier, and then Monique Marcotte.
Thanks for letting me speak to you tonight. I'm also a Rancho Dorado homeowner, but I have a little different view on things. I do agree striping on our streets is not an appropriate action to take at this point in time. Please, if you have any pull with the Traffic Commission, let them know. But I recently was stunned to learn that a very vocal minority of homeowners from our development have been working with the engineers from the city to implement the speed mitigation measures. I'm here to respectfully ask that no action be taken at this time by that commission. Rather, I hope that you'll allow our HOA to take the lead in determining what our community at large wants. There are more than 275 homeowners in our development, and the vast majority of us only learned in a letter from the HOA 11 days ago that this was happening, that they were suggesting putting striping on our streets and might be considering the installation of speed cushions, pop-outs, and more islands. These are permanent and expensive changes, should be carefully considered before implementation. Firmly believe that if you allow our HOA to survey the community, take the lead in this issue, you'll find that the vast majority of homeowners don't believe we have a significant problem. don't want these options to be implemented. Further think the wishes of a homeowner group that's this large needs to be taken into account in totality. So in summary, please instruct the traffic engineers to not do anything at this time. Let our HOA get things together, find out what the community as a whole wants, and don't take action based on the wishes of a vocal minority. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Do we have the Homeowners Association, Michelle, information?
Yes,
It is?
I believe
Okay.
that staff's been working with them
Perfect.
consistently.
Okay, just asking the question. Okay, wonderful, thank you. Okay, next speaker is going to be John Mosier, followed by Monique Marcotte, and then Greg Phillips will be after that.
Hello, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members, Helen. We're here because we did get a result of the consultant after we had the visits, and I want to thank you all for coming out and actually taking your time to go through the park with us. A reason for that was because of what the owner submitted was it reduced the concerns of our residents. And unfortunately, the guide that was used from the consultant plus the group that came out from the city and went around the park, they went off of what the owner submitted. And it left a lot to be desired. So what we're doing is we're going back and we're going to basically follow the path we took you through, take the pictures of what we showed you, because a lot of that was missed by the group that came through the park, and resubmit that when we do our rebuttal, and get that information so it goes to the consultant. I don't believe the consultant has been to the park, and I honestly don't believe they'll be there, in the next couple of weeks. So that's the way that we can show them what we're up against and the areas of concern. Since we did do the questionnaire, we have our responses from the people. We have that extensive Excel spreadsheet that I've given you all. We're going to go and request that they spend 2 days going through the park with us to address all the concerns of all the residents. That's where we started back in December, asking that in January. It didn't really happen. We got a few hours. But because of the responses we're getting, we see that we're going to have to re-request that. The owners in their response said that they would be doing some studies and report on other items that they disagreed with in May. We asked them for this stuff back in December, January, and in their response in March 1st, before the hearing, they said they're going to wait till May to do the responses or figure these things out. And because that's historically what we've run into, no matter what happens, we're going to still push for them to come through the park and try and assess and see what's really happening with all the residents going forward. Again, I want to thank you guys for coming out. It was really important, and you spent a lot of time. Very much appreciate that. All the residents do. And we'll see where we go from here. But that's what we're doing. We're going to submit as much as we can to put it out there, show them what's really going on. Thanks for your time.
Great, thank you, John. Okay, Monique Marcotte, followed by Greg Phillips and Abby Phillips.
Oh, I can do that, or I can raise myself up. It's up to you.
Whatever's easiest.
I'm going to hide behind here.
That's fine, thank you.
Right there, that's right.
Now we can see you.
Is it on? Check. Okay. My name is Monique Marcotte. I've lived in the park, at least 10 years now. And I used to walk when I got there. I used to walk 1.5 miles around the park, and it was well kept. The roads were well done. But since I've been stuck in the wheelchair, it's become a problem. We bought the coach. It was a real fixer-upper. The yard had been neglected. There had been no work done on the landscaping, so there was so much erosion, there was danger of the house listing. So we took care of that all on our own. We put our own retaining wall at our own expense. And we rent the space, so the space should be safe enough for the building to be on. So we thought that should have been a park issue, but nope. These infrastructures are not maintained by the park. Also, the roads. I depend on this motorized chair. This is my second chair. The first chair I had got wore out in less than 4 years. I use the chair to go from my coach down to the pool every day because that's the only way I can walk. I can walk in water. But because of the wear and tear caused by driving down to the pool, the roads are so damaged from the water, the rain, the wear and tear of the cars. I don't know who came out and who walked. I wasn't there. If you want to walk and roll with me, I'll show you what is causing problems for my chair. I would love to have you come out and I'll go with you. And I'll show you where the crumbling roads are. This chair is a little bit more robust than the last one, so hopefully it'll hold up. Some patching has been done on the roads, but not to maintain the surface. There are sinkholes, and I don't know if you didn't see them, but there's a big one down at the bottom of the hill. And the owners are not doing anything to replace them, to fix them. The ADA issues are not looked at this park because it's a 1970-something building, and of course it never applied. But when they make renovations, when they change the sink in the bathroom, when they put in a new cabinet, and they put in a new paper towel dispenser, but I can't get in there because it's not ADA. When they have the bathroom set up, they put in bars, which is great, but I can't get into the little cubicles because they're not ADA. So I can't use the restroom there because I'm in a wheelchair. So I go down to the pool, I spend my hour doing my exercise, and I leave. I can't spend the time down there because I don't have access to a restroom. So ADA has never been addressed. They have done updates and renovations. They've retiled, they've done things to make it beautiful, but they haven't addressed the ADA issues. And I think it needs to be looked at. When I have to ask questions, do I take care of my chair or do I go to the pool? Do I preserve my chair or do I go visit people for company? I shouldn't have to ask those kind of questions. The roads should be maintained and the property should be kept up in a safe manner to protect all of the clients that live there. We rent the space. They're supposed to maintain the space. I had a driveway as part of the space I rent. Therefore, it's part of the responsibility of the owner to maintain that driveway. It's part of the space. They had a list of driveways that they said they'd addressed, and mine was on that list. My driveway is like this, from roots, it's cracked. It's very difficult for me to get out without riding like I'm riding a Bronco, you know? And it's very difficult with my mobility to get out of my home. The owners and management are not fully living up to their responsibility to maintain roads and driveways, in a safe way. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Okay, next speaker is Greg Phillips, followed by Abby Phillips, and then Tom Primush.
Thank you so much for having this opportunity, letting us share some concerns with you. I am also with the Rancho Dorado neighborhood, and I live next to Matt and Kelly, who you've already heard from. And we moved in about 3 years ago, and we noticed the speeding issue from day one. We have a 10-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter, and we literally have to stand on the sidewalk to watch them cross the street if they're going to play with friends, because we just don't trust who's coming up and down Coast. Where our house is, we live right in the middle of the crest of the hill and then the bottom of the hill that connects into Island. And that's kind of the section where the majority of the speed is generated, is right by where Matt and I live. And I've seen just numerous experiences and have run into so many situations where it's the same speed downhill as it is uphill with these drivers. It seems like it's kind of 50-50. And one particular situation, I was taking out the garbage one evening, and I literally walked upon a drag race that was just starting going up Coast to the crest of Coast. And it was two cars side by side. Again, we have the wide roads, and they floor it, reaching probably 50 miles an hour by the time they got to the top of Coast. And so, I just keep asking myself, a physical barrier of some kind, a speed cushion, is what's going to, I think, get them, send the message to people who are either cutting through the neighborhood or even local residents that aren't obeying, the laws there. But painted lines, I don't think are going to make, as Matt pointed out, if it is going to reduce it by 1 mile an hour, that's just not a significant impact for what we're needing to curb, the growing issue. And I would also like you to take into consideration that those who are here tonight, the 7-to-1 ratio of, the 7 of us who have showed up, who want action taken versus one who doesn't. So if that can weigh in on this decision as well. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And next speaker is Abby Phillips, followed by Tom Primish, and then Marlene Walder after that, and then we have one speaker after that.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting us speak. What a privilege. My name is Abby Phillips, and as mentioned, I'm in the Rancho Dorado community. I won't repeat everything my husband just said, but we do have ring video of the drag race if anyone's interested in seeing that. That was really interesting. So I first want to say that I appreciate that you only have a limited amount of money, and the things mentioned are very important, the affordable housing, the wheelchair accessible things. So I do understand that we're just a few people, that it might seem like, well, it might not be worth it, but I really appreciate what the man said, that we don't want a terrible accident to happen to anybody. And so to take proactive steps, I think, is a wonderful idea. I used to have my Class C CDL license, and what we learned is so if you don't know, but that's 16 passengers you're allowed to drive. And what we learned was look for the double stripes, the yellow stripes, and that will get you out of a neighborhood or through a neighborhood. And so I actually think it would be harmful to our neighborhood to have the stripes, because it usually indicates a well-traveled road, which usually would be 35 miles an hour or over. So I think it actually gives the wrong impression on the speed limit in a neighborhood street. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was that I wrote just a few notes here. I understand where this man that did speak against it, I can appreciate differences of opinions. It isn't affecting him, and that's understandable, because we have many homes, like he mentioned, over 200, and there are only a few that are on the streets that are really affected. So Coast Avenue and White Sands are the only residents that would be affected, and I think if I didn't have young children, I might not notice as much. When I would definitely notice is in the morning. I can't back out of my driveway. We just have a steady stream of people coming through, all of which I know don't belong to our neighborhood, because where we live, the only people coming are from 2 very small cul-de-sacs. And so, but it's like 8 cars, I can't even get out of my driveway. And also at 5 o'clock, you would see constant traffic. And I also do experience the same that Kelly said, where I'm trying to pull into my driveway and I have to slow down and people are gunning it around me, speeding. I guess, and when I take out my trash, I guess you would notice it if you didn't have children. I take that back. But it's more worrisome with the young kids, because our kids were 7 and 9 when we moved in, and we just hoped so much that they could just have fun and ride their bikes, or not on the street. I'm kind of a control freak. I wouldn't even want them to ride their bikes on the street, but on the sidewalk. We don't even allow them to be on the sidewalk, because if they accidentally went into the street, they'd just be gone. So I know you understand the point I'm trying to make, but just one last example was, is when we're in our garage, there are times where I see something go by and I couldn't tell you if it was a sedan, a truck, silver, black. I couldn't tell you. It goes by so quickly and it's so loud. And then in the back of our home, we have the hill, and so the traffic echoes off the hill, and you can just hear them just flying by. So again, it's not trying to say that we want you guys to have a great time in our backyard and to have more convenient life in our street. It's the idea that speeding is dangerous, and we would hate for anything to happen. And we also just feel like it's not respectful to neighborhoods to use it as a cut through to the hidden target, as everyone calls it. But thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you'll consider what we've brought up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Tom Premish, followed by Marlene Walder, and then Tim Stoffen.
Hi, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Tom Premish. I'm the president of the Rancho Dorado Homeowners Association, although tonight I'm here speaking as a concerned homeowner. You may kind of be wondering why a bunch of neighbors gives up their Tuesday evening to come in and talk to the City Council on an item that's not even on the agenda. Totally understand that, can't act on it. But one of the reasons that I'm here, and I believe a lot of us are here, is we have gone through the effort to go to the Traffic Commission. They had done a survey on our neighborhood. They found speeds were high, mid-30s. Matt has much better details in his handout than I can give, so I'll defer to that. But when we were talking with the Traffic Commission, it really seemed that they wanted to almost check the box and put lines in. Stripe the neighborhood, let's get this done, let's get this out of the way. Traffic engineer even said to us, look, this is gonna reduce your speed by 1 mile an hour. I'm supposed to cheer over that? It's really hard to do when you got speeds that are in the mid-30s. So I'm not here asking you to do anything right now. We're here in a proactive manner because there's another traffic survey that's come out, and this is one that Matt has been talking about, that is, in our feelings, flawed. And I feel that that's going to influence the traffic engineers to move forward with striping without really considering other means. And this has happened before, where a traffic commission had come into the neighborhood based on some neighbors bringing this up, and they put in, without asking any of the residents or the HOA, to put in lines that were in one of our monument areas and put in about 3 feet tall plastic delimiter cones. The community hated it so much that some homeowners took it upon themselves to remove those. Now, I'm not condoning that at all. That was wrong. But what I'm asking is, if the council and the traffic commission can work with the HOA, work with the homeowners, develop an idea about what we would like is something that is effective, something that's a little bit more than 1 mile an hour reduction. I have no idea right now if that's speed cushions, pop outs, something else, but something that looks aesthetically pleasing and gets the job done, and specifically gets the community involved. As a member of the HOA, I invite you, or the Traffic Commission, come to us, talk to us. We can help you guys engage the community, maybe help look into measures, maybe even go in on some things together. I don't know yet. But to just default to let's go to striping because that's the first thing, that's the cheapest thing, is not the right thing to do. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. I think it's going to infuriate a lot of homeowners, and I ask you to include us in it. We will make ourselves available to you. We can do polls of the community to find out what people want. That way you're going to have happy constituents in an election year. But that's the point I wanted to get across here is please include us in any decision versus going down the book and saying line striping is what we do because that's the #1 thing, and then you guys have to wait a year or 2 years with some eyesore in your community. That's really ineffective when we can brainstorm ahead of time and come up with a really good idea that really solves the issue. So that's what I'm asking you guys for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. I just wanted to make one comment. So we don't actually get involved in working with you guys. That's staff's job. So what we're going to do is have them reach out to both the Homeowners Association and then your group, and then they will be discussing everything with you. We actually make the decision, though, after they come up with ideas as far as if it comes to a policy discussion, because we set the policy, but staff is very comprehensive in what they do, so they will be reaching out to you and figuring out what options would be available.
Thanks. Any of you are always welcome at the HOA meeting, but I understand where you're coming from. We'll work with anybody, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next speaker is going to be Marlene Walder, followed by Tim Stoffen.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. I've been coming in front of you on 2 subjects, parking and rent control, and neither one is really getting solved, but I'm really here today under rent control, and I'm still talking about our parks. I'm Marlene Walder, San Marcos Mobile Estates on Barham. The rent control, Julie McGee used to be in charge, and this was before your council members, and I was doing the same thing back then. And now I'm so fed up. I walk the streets every day. I walk the other parks around us also. And our streets, one of them is crumbling. I hit the potholes. I hit the tree branches when I walk, that some of the places have large ones. I fell 3 times one year, and they made me go get pictures and other things, and nothing got done. But they said if I didn't document it with pictures to send to the they had an office in Beverly Hills at that time. And after I said, this is the 3rd time I fell, and if I break my hip or knee again, you know, I had them replaced now. I'm going to be suing you. The following month, they did take care of it, which meant cutting out part of the cement, but not appropriately, because they didn't cut the roots over closer to the tree, so now it's sunk. I don't know why it went down instead of stayed up, but it's now come up in 2 other areas, and they haven't done anything. The new owners, I don't know how many years they've been owners, but when George, who was the previous owner, passed away, it was the son and daughter inherited it, and they have not done anything per se that's visible safety for us. They remodeled the bathroom, and we had to go tell them that when you go in, many people are heavy, and I used to be heavier also. You would hit the toilet paper rolls, and older seniors have thin skin, and you would end up with your skin bleeding. They did not take into consideration of who is living there. They once said the food bank is a waste of time. We now have, you know, higher end people living there. Well, some of them are, they could afford it, but an awful lot of them are not as long of a resident as I am, but they are sicker than I am. And they need more ADA items, they need safer streets. The pool has not been upgraded. I've lived there 35 years. The pool has been drained once for sure, and maybe twice in 35 years to put fresh water. It has never been resurfaced in 60 years. Pools have to be resurfaced. Deckings have to be replaced. The lights went out the year I moved in, and we used to have night swimming. They had to close the pool. The walls, people needed the retaining walls. We've had 3 people roll down the cliffs, and one of them was even their own worker, and he got injured also. The other 2, fortunately, did not break anything, and that's only been in the last 2 years that this has happened. The one lady had to move out. Her health declined, and the family was frightened that she would fall down the hill again. The man who fell twice, he rolled down, and fortunately, the lady below him started to put up a retaining wall, and that saved him from rolling off of the cliff down 4 feet, where they put up a retaining wall. But they didn't make them straight. They didn't bother. They just put up a wall and took away part of the people's property. And so my thing is, I have not seen anything in all these years. I started out with 125. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Okay, next speaker is going to be Tim Stoffen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Stoffen. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. I am so proud of all my neighbors in Rancho Dorado. I'm another homeowner in that community as well. So appreciate you guys taking the time to consider our requests. I think everyone in our community is, and I'll say for myself as well, we're all concerned about the solution that needs to be put in place according to the traffic committee. Lane striping, the data that's been presented by Matt, which was outstanding, really isn't an effective solution. I think the neat thing about a forum like this is, as we all work together as members of San Marcos in alignment with your mission statement, improve the quality of life. There are options that I hope are being considered. I don't want to say that the traffic committee is going to rubber stamp lane striping, but that could, as Matt and some others have indicated, could check the box and say some action was taken. It really would not be effective, and it won't benefit anybody. And as Keith pointed out, it's not a solution for anybody in our community. And that's the one thing that unanimously we all want, is no lane striping. I forget your name back there, but I think what you brought up is so valid. Lane striping, I think, would validate the road as a cut-through. And it would make people believe that that is what it's intended for. And to hear that there is science or some teaching for people with licenses that drive, large numbers of people, that they're taught and trained to look for the double yellow, is even more evidence to suggest that that's just not the best solution for our community. I love that Tom, as our president of our HOA, said, come work with us. And I hope if the traffic committee makes the decision and you folks are the ones to ultimately approve it, I think that's what I heard you say, Rebecca?
Well, it depends. It really depends. So generally, staff would handle it, but if it gets to a point, it could come back to us.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yeah, I was in for the meeting with the traffic committee, and it seemed like I hope we equally care about our communities, no matter what. If San Alejo, San Marcos proper, Cal State, wherever you're at, I hope we all have a vested interest in listening to the homeowners in our community. But again, I do want to thank you. I have a 3-year-old, and I live on the top of Crest, and I, like other parents, I don't let my daughter walk outside. We are hawkish over her, and it is because of people speeding and traveling at high rates of speed. So I really do hope you guys have some influence. Please don't let the traffic committee just approve lane striping. We will come up with better solutions collectively, I'm certain of it. So that's really my request. Thank you, you guys. Rebecca, it's neat seeing you in person. I see you on KUSI, I feel like every weekend. So you all have done a great job. San Marcos is such a beautiful community. When I was a kid, the McDonald's on Nordal was like the big deal. boy, we've come a long way.
We
And
have.
it's all because of what you folks are doing. Please keep it up, guys. Rancho Dorado, this is rare. We're coming out, like Tom said, on a Tuesday night because we care, and we know we have an audience that cares as well. So thank you again for all you do.
Thank you. And there will be lots of discussion with staff, and they will be definitely reaching out to you. So thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, moving on to our public hearing this evening. Item number 11. Candy? No.
Yes,
Michelle?
we have
Candy. Michelle?
Candy will be
Okay.
providing you with a presentation briefly once
Okay.
you open the hearing.
Phone on. That would help. Good evening, Mayor and council members. This will be a actually very brief presentation to the tune of one slide for you, but this is just a formality as part of the CDBG program we have here. So for the annual action plan for the program year 2022 and 2023, we are obligated to have a public hearing, and then we move on to post our annual action plan and open that up for comments, which we will do after we conclude this meeting, and then we will come back to you April 26th to formalize that. So as you know, the CDBG program, it's an annual grant that is awarded on a formula basis to develop viable communities, primarily for low and moderate income residents, by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, and expanded economic opportunities. Now, the preliminary activities that we had to do to get to this point today, and of course required by Housing and Urban Development, we had to encourage the participation of the residents and social services providers to figure out what the community needed. And so we held an annual needs assessment meeting with local social service providers. We did that in January. We also posted a needs assessment survey on the city's website. We did that both in English and Spanish. And then for this particular hearing here, we advertised for this hearing, requesting input from the citizens for community needs of what we could potentially do with the funding we would receive. And we did that in both English and Spanish publications. We will do the same when we finalize the plan. We will also put out those same publications in English and Spanish as well. So lastly, we are scheduled to receive $841,819 for this coming program year. It's a 5.8 increase from prior year, and that increase is driven from CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And the last slide here is, and not as simple as that, and I can take any questions you have regarding the activities we've done to date.
Okay, so Candy, so the next step is we are opening this up for public comment. The comments come in, and then we bring that all back in April, and then we'll make our decision at that point in time.
Yes, on top of that, though, we will at that time have received the actual, right now we have the estimated award.
Yeah.
We will have concluded received the final award, made sure we hashed out those dollar amounts and who allocated what to what. So you'll receive a formalized plan at that next meeting, which would then obviously be published to the public as well. So you'll have a full rundown at that time of who's going to get what percentage is what, and everything will be formalized. Right now, it's just taking in the input to see what the public would like to see, any thoughts from you folks, and then we go into the development and the final stages of that.
Perfect, okay. Any questions from, Councilmember Musgrove?
Thank you, Candy. The grant guidance on this, some of it is established by the grantor, and then how much do we have as far as latitude? And do you anticipate any changes between now and then, now and April?
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the guidelines, the stipulations that we have for how we can issue the money?
How we can issue.
Yes.
So the program, it's allocated by different percentages. So we're given, about 841,000. 15% goes to public services, 20% goes to, and don't, these are not the exact percentages, I'll have to shoot them to you. About 20% goes to public administration, and the rest goes to infrastructure improvements. And so it's broken up in a specific way that is determined from HUD, how we are to expend the money, and then we report and obviously keep track to make sure how we're spending these dollars.
So the guidelines, if we use that number, 20%, let's say infrastructure, we have to allocate 20% for infrastructure, but then we have latitude to determine how and where we spend that on infrastructure. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, did you have something? Okay. Councilmember Nunez.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of follow-up questions. I'm interested in getting a little bit more information and where we've been and where we're at and what the next steps are. In the staff report we received, there's a mention of a date of a meeting that happened in February with stakeholders. And then Candy, you mentioned a meeting in January. Is this the same meeting?
No, there were two separate meetings. One meeting we had was it was in the actual needs assessment that we invited many different social service providers to the table, where in that particular meeting we had them come to either present to us on the particular items they felt that the community needed or their organization needed. And in that particular meeting, 211 presented, San Marcos Community Foundation presented. I gave an overview of my department and what we contributed. So it was kind of more informational. And from there, we launched the application process for social services providers to put in an application for funding for public service funds from the grant or the CDBG grant for the February. And so in February, we had some follow-up calls for that.
Okay, so now I'm more confused with the timeline. So what happened in January?
January was the needs assessment, the actual needs assessment meeting with the social service providers.
Okay, and who are the social services providers?
Yes, ma'am, we have a list right here. We invited 28 agencies. We have a whole slew of them, but some of the ones we invited was 211, Casa de Amparo, Boys and Girls Club, Catholic Charities, MAC Project, Meals on Wheels, Mental Health Systems, 28 total agencies. I'm happy to send over the full list. Out of the 28, we did only have 9 agencies attend. The ones that attended were 211, Boys and Girls Club, Casa de Amparo, Hope Through Housing, Interfaith, North County Lifeline, San Marcos Branch Library, San Marcos Community Foundation, and True Care.
So I'm trying to get a sense of how we arrive at this list. Do we put out a call for providers to receive an invitation, or how to, if you could,
yeah, of course,
tell me a little bit about how that works out.
So we're on multiple, I guess, how can you say, different consortiums or different types of events that we help plan or programs that we're involved with. But also we work with so many different providers for so many different things. So not only do we have a growing social service list that we help direct citizens to, all the time. Everybody needs different help at any time, so it's ever growing. So we keep this list, and then we always, make sure to invite everybody on there. And then we update it, of course, as necessary, as things are no longer available. But during the meetings that we have with the folks that we communicate with and meet with, on a weekly basis, we have so many different organizations that we meet with. We're constantly adding folks on, and so our list is ever growing and then ever changing. So we connect with people, and it's really through the networking through our business and all the different, homeless consortiums, the Regional Alliance for Fair Housing consortiums, and the CDBG. So we kind of make sure we all come together to make sure we're connecting with everybody we can.
So for instance, in this extensive list, like for instance, would our mobile home residents receive an invitation possibly to participate in this needs assessment?
No, because the needs assessment is for social service or nonprofit agencies only at this time, because the CDBG funding or the applications that we receive in at this time are only granted to social service companies or nonprofit providers, not for individuals.
So then, when I look at the report that we've been provided tonight, there's already some, I'm not sure what to call them, maybe recommendations or possibilities for what to spend with the monies. And so when I look at ADA improvements to city facilities and infrastructure, so can you help me reconcile then, is that a separate line item when we look at this allocation separate from the monies that are going to these nonprofits?
It is a separate line item. So as I mentioned, you have 20%, I think I might have this backwards, but 20% allocated to like program administration, 15% for social services, and then the remainder of the total award goes for public infrastructure. So whatever that remaining balance is, I think last year to the tune of $700,000 would go over for those public improvements as you're mentioning, and we work closely, with the teams to make sure those are done within the fiscal year, to make sure that we're expending the funds and that they are happening in the communities with the right, income targets that are mandated by this program.
And just to add to that, council member, it's HUD is they are the group that actually tell us which percentage gets allocated to what. So the ADA improvements, that percentage is set by HUD, and we then use the funding in our CIP program. Like currently, we're using audible ped crossings and doing some ped ramp upgrades in suitable areas using the funding.
So for instance, one of the issues that we've heard today from our residents and some ADA concerns in the mobile home parks, is that possible funding that could be allocated to one of these mobile home parks?
It's got to be a public facility?
Yeah, it's private
So
property.
the mobile home parks are private facilities.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So then when I look at the other possibilities, the affirmatively furthering fair housing,
Yes, ma'am.
so is that a separate allocation or is that part of the other?
It's part of the allocation that covers the public services. So as we would use funding to pay for the 211 service or grant funding from the applications for social service providers who put in an application for funding for whatever their need is. What we do is we use some of the funds to pay for Legal Aid Society of San Diego. And so that's to the tune of about $30,000 a year. And what they do for us is, of course, they provide free legal aid services to the citizens of San Marcos, but they also actually go above and beyond. They do testing, which is pertinent to us, removing the impediments for fair housing that we see out in the community. They provide training, resource fairs. They go above and beyond. They help us with legal questions. So they do a lot of work with that money, and so our part of the contract for the AI is $30,000 for them to service our community.
So then a follow-up question to that, then is legal aid applying for that funding, or is that part of the allocation that we are making as a city?
So they have applied for it. It's been granted and had been given to them on a 5-year contract. It's kind of more of a sole source contract because there was not really another entity that was qualified, and it was an agreement through the entire consortium with dealing with the AI that we would use them all together. And they're the ones that help us collect the data to help remove those impediments we see with the fair housing issues. And collectively, they help gather that information. So we're kind of have one front man helping us lead that effort. So they, since they are more of a public service and it's not a private, legal aid, it was selected, by this agency many years ago, and every other agency that I know or that I've worked for, they've always used that.
So what I'm trying to get at then, in terms of our next steps then, are we gonna put out RFAs for these agencies to reapply for the funding, or what does that look like?
So 211's contract is usually sole source because they have a special, obviously a special business that they offer. So that one would go off in sole source, and we start their contract in June, their new contract. Legal aid, their contract was renewed last year for a total of 5 years. And we will have contracts for people who were awarded a grant for the social service, and that would be obviously to the tune of the amount that they were awarded. So if they asked for a grant from the social service pot of, let's just say, $15,000, we would have a contract with them, because to follow procurement laws, we have to make sure that we had in place the correct documents so we can issue payment to them and send that grant to them. And then, of course, we always make sure we follow up to see what they expended those dollars on, and we can report back to CDBG through our reporting processes to make sure that it was expended correctly.
So are we looking, is there gonna be some sort of correlation with this particular pot of money and the monies that either we've already donated through our grant program or nonprofit grant program, and any additional monies that we might allocate for that? For instance, is somebody checking to see, okay, we've allocated X amount of money, or they've been awarded X amount of money under this program, and then maybe, is there any correlation there?
So for our CDBG program, we do check to see prior awards, and if they had expended them, of course, correctly, and that obviously the organization itself has done, prosperous work and is, good standing in the community, as well as what other grants they apply for, maybe outside of the city. It's something that we may not necessarily be privy to. However, if they apply for a grant from us and they go to apply for another grant somewhere else, they would have to disclose that they received a grant from us in order for them to receive that. Otherwise, they would be, it would be misreporting information. So I would assume that it would be the obligation for them, but I will absolutely double check that they could not just get multiple grants without, making sure that they've checked all the boxes. However, similar to how Steve explained, he's getting multiple, sources of funding, but in order to get one, he's got to get approval and then one from another, and that's usually how it goes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Of course.
I had 2 questions, Candy. So on the social service providers, I would assume that their eligibility would have something to do with the HUD guidelines and whether they actually meet those HUD guidelines?
Yes, of course. They would have to serve folks in the correct AMI levels,
right?
And obviously do work that falls within the categories.
Okay, and then 211, I think we spend about $65,000 a year on that, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 65,000?
Contract award is $69,300 for the next year.
I was pretty close.
Yeah, very close.
Okay. On that, the list of providers through social services, is that the same list that we have as our providers, or can it be more extensive on the 211? Because I know a lot of people call that. I was actually just talking about it yesterday when I was at a food distribution event. The 211, do they have a more extensive list of providers of social services, or would it be around the same? Do we know?
Well, we do tend to share information and update our lists accordingly. Okay. We do need to do that. There is some information that they need from us. Of course, like the resource sheet we just kind of discussed and updated, we're going to get back to them.
Right.
But anytime there is a new resource, It sometimes does take a while, but we are involved in so many different types of, I guess, so like I said, so many different consortiums or different groups, so many alliances we take part in. The information is shared and it gets around very quickly, so we're able to transfer that information. And 211 is a part of many of those conversations. So in a long way to answer your question, it does get there. I think it's not as rapidly. We would love to see a more expedited transfer, but the biggest thing is I think the city's coming together because it's not just one city. It's right. All of us together coming together to say this can help everybody. Let's get this together.
Yeah, and you have a lot of crossover, I would assume.
And
too.
we do, and I think we're moving in that direction because we have a really great group of people who are really trying to, expedite things and make things a little easier. So we would be able to transfer that information much easier than the old school just updating an Excel sheet. We want to be able to transfer that, through OneDrive or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Okay, Mrs. Peak, we're closing the public hearing today, or are we opening the public hearing? Just want to make sure we're going to do this right. Because we're asking for feedback or public input to provide guidance.
That would denote an opening.
I'm sorry?
That would denote an opening.
Well, that's what I wanted to make sure. So we are, I'm going to make a motion that we open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Aye. Okay, and that's all we need to do, right, Mrs. Peak? All right, you're set to go, Candy. We've done our job here. Thank you so much, and thank you for the very informative presentation and answering our questions. Really can't say enough about it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Moving on, we have no more oral communications. We already handled all of them. Next steps are reports, and I had a report from Sandag. We had a lot of different things that we saw. We actually have a meeting coming up here this next Friday. The largest item was Office of the Independent Auditor had an audit on P-cards, which is basically credit cards through Sandag. We talked about $2.5 million over 4 years, and there was a lot of discussion about it. We're going to be seeing a new policy coming up here shortly, so that we are making sure that the money is spent properly and wisely because it is taxpayer funds. Other than that, there was a closed session, and then there was a salary and compensation audit, which just information, which was an update that all the items that the board had directed the staff to actually move forward with was happening, which it is. And that was pretty much it. Not too much else other than that. And moving on to the next item, which is League of California Cities. Councilmember Nunez.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a meeting, our last meeting was March the 14th, and it was held via Zoom. I think we are contemplating going back to in-person for next month. I haven't seen any details about it, so I think we're all welcoming that. At the last meeting, we did get sort of a brief update of the legislative priorities. We were supposed to get a report. I haven't seen it come through, but I did see that the league has scheduled a legislative update briefing. It's via Zoom, and it's scheduled for this Thursday, March 24th at 9:30. There is still time to register for that, so I will be participating in that, and I know they usually record the sessions and then disseminate, so I think that'll be an important one if any of the council members and the mayor are able to participate. So that is this Thursday, March 24th, starting at 9:30 in the morning. And I do want to congratulate Councilmember Musgrove. We did receive the announcement that you joined the Public Safety Committee of the League, and
Coercively volunteered, yes.
Voluntold.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. So I do participate in the Community Services Committee, and I've certainly enjoyed the participation. So we will be having committee meetings next month at the end of April. Anything?
No, just looking forward to that legislative summary from, I can't think of his name, but he gave us a
Jason.
quick verbal rundown, but looking forward to the report.
Right, that was Jason.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. North County Transit District.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
I have a brief update. We are continuing our virtual meetings through April 17th as of right now, and we'll be deciding again next month if that will continue like that or we'll go back in person. We discussed the fiscal year 23 budget guidance and strategic focus for the coming year. Couple items that we're focusing on: recoveries from COVID, as everybody else. Starting to discuss inflationary pressures and what we can do to stay a step ahead of that, if anything. We are going through a district strategic plan with an outside consultant, always looking to improve service, quality, and starting the process, continuing the process and getting more heavily into some of the locations are real estate development opportunities. And then you might have read in the paper, we're going to need to change some of our bus frequencies. We have it'll be temporary, but we have a employee shortage like many places have, and because of the number of cancellations we've had to do, some of them last minute, the decision's been made to just make some temporary reductions so people will know that bus isn't coming at that particular time. So working on that. We have received a couple big grants. I think this was in the paper too. We received one, was a $4.8 million grant that will help us purchase 8 hydrogen fuel cell buses, electric buses. And then we also received a grant of $1.3 million that will help support the construction of the hydrogen fueling station. You know, it's great to have a bus, but you need to fuel it. So there's a lot more infrastructure that goes with it than just a bus. So we're working on that. And then the executive director pointed out, and I will get this to Michelle and what's his name? Jack.
Oh.
There's some American Public Transportation Association funds available, and so the thought is the cities might be able to look at some of that and see if we might be able to partner and come up with, look at some grants that we might be able to use and do some things around here too. So
maybe to get our shuttle going.
He still talks about that.
I
That's
know
on
he
the-
does,
that's
but now
on the-
I'm
it's in the
concerned
process.
because of that whole shortage of labor.
Yeah.
That's concerning.
That's an issue.
How many routes are they like canceling for now? Do we know?
I don't know that we know yet. Hold on just a minute. It'll be effective April 3rd. I don't know. I don't know.
It's terrible news.
I think it's not necessarily an elimination of a route, but maybe
It was the timing of the
extend-
headways, instead of
yes.
15-minute stops, that would increase the interval to
Right. It
30, and I
might-
believe it was 8 routes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need to get to work though, that's not gonna
Right.
cut it.
There'll have to be some adjustments for the
Right.
regular
Yeah.
riders.
Yeah, that's
So they're continuing to work through that.
okay.
And that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Councilmember Walton, North County Dispatch JPA, and I know you had a meeting because you announced it right before the last time.
No,
So
I did my report at the last meeting.
you did?
Yeah, that's right. Number 3G and that stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's
So
right.
we don't
We
meet
do
again
have
in-
that on our website.
Yeah,
We
no,
had
it's
an
great.
alert.
No, that
Yeah.
is great, actually. But we don't
Right.
meet until May.
Okay. All right. I forgot about that. Okay. City Council, no, Clean Energy Alliance. You
We
have
meet-
something there?
We meet the 31st.
The 31st. City Council business visits. Did anyone go on a visit?
We did, Maria and I today. We went to
Hughes Circuits on Pacific Street. You may have driven by it. It's right there by Bradley Park. Oh yeah, there's a picture right there. And it's another sort of San Marcos origin story, right? Dad finds the business in 1999 by himself, and kids go to work there. They grow the business. Today they've got 250 employees, which ranks them as one of our top private employers in the city of San Marcos. And they are growing, in fact, bursting at the seams. Soon, they hope to break ground on a new building across the street. They purchased the little light industrial park where they exist, and then they're going to build a large building across the street because they desperately need the space. And what they do is they create circuit boards, basically, for all kinds of primarily government uses. And we're donned in these little coats here because we went into one of the rooms where they assemble these circuit boards. Maria, you want to add?
Yeah, no, and they didn't want us compromising their circuit board, so, but it was great that they allowed us to see their production. And for me, it's one of these places that I've walked by there so many times and driven by there, and I had no idea what they did. And I had no idea how large they were, so it was really great to see their operation and to find out that, as Randy said, that it's family-owned and they've been here in San Marcos for so long and they want to continue to stay here. It was interesting, Randy, you remember that they mentioned that they were ready to leave to go to Carlsbad.
That's right.
And I can't remember what the twist and turn that kept them here.
Well, I
what
know what
ended
it
up-
is. I know it's because Tess and I were talking to them about it, so I know Tess has worked with them and I know they were working on purchasing that property across the street, so it's exciting to hear because I hadn't talked to them about it.
Right. They did mention that they had the land in Carlsbad, they were ready to move, and then they ended up staying here with us, and they want to stay here and continue to grow, so it's really exciting.
And they have some really neat technology. They do a lot of defense work.
Yeah, and most of their employees, they say, live in the wider San Marcos area, but housing is becoming a concern for them. They find that their newer employees have to drive farther, and so they're not untouched by the housing crisis.
You're right, and they did mention that that is a big problem for retaining their employees. And so they want more housing.
Yeah.
Okay. San Marcos Creek project update.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We have pictures tonight provided by Isaac and the team. Lots of action out in the creek. SDG&E will be installing utilities through Bent Avenue over the next couple of weeks. These new facilities will provide power to the lights on the bridge, and once installed, we can then remove some of the poles along Bent Avenue. If you've been out there, you will have seen that there was paving on the north side of the newly widened Discovery Street and on the west side of Via Veracruz. Installation of railing and architectural treatments as well as street lights on the Bent Avenue Bridge began this week, so that's exciting, really looking like it's taking shape. They also conducted drilling activities to confirm the subsurface conditions for the Via Veracruz Bridge. This will help us so that the logs can be better used to plan out the foundation drilling activities, because we'll remember it was quite exciting once we really got into the good stuff on Bent. So that's our update. Lots of action.
Well, I've been trying to avoid that area myself because I was told, stay away, don't bring any unnecessary traffic. So exciting. The road is taking place when you're, which is a separate project, but a lot of people are noticing right there at Ralph's, the road is now looking like it's going to go through. The hill's gone there. It's a huge difference over there. It's so open now, and now you can really see the hospital and all that's going to bring 500 new jobs, which is exciting. So it's looking really different over there. Really exciting. Any other? Oh, I actually have a couple of things on commentary. Today was the Walnut Grove Equestrian Center improvements, ribbon cutting. That was exciting, right out there in Twin Oaks Valley. What a beautiful place that is. My gosh, and it was an ideal day too because the weather was beautiful. It was 70-something. That was exciting. And then on Sunday, I went to a food event where we put together for the Algar Foundation. They put together 10,000 bags and boxes of food for affordable housing residents. And then yesterday, we delivered some of that to some San Marcos projects. I have to tell you, it rained on us on Sunday. I hung it out. I stayed there for 3 full hours. Even after it started raining for about 15 minutes, it was a downpour. I was wet and everything. And then we got back to it, and we were able to get everything done. So it was really exciting. All fresh produce for affordable housing residents, you know, and right now with gas being so high, food being so high, and then also rent, it was really a big help. Got to talk to some residents yesterday. That was exciting to be able to talk to them and hear about how this was going to help them. And yeah, that happened yesterday. So anything else anyone wants to talk about?
Briefly.
If it's briefly.
Very brief.
Okay, yes.
I'll distill an hour-and-a-half meeting I had this afternoon into 3 quick notes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were going to use an hour and a half. Sorry.
One of my collateral duties is to represent our city on the County Litter Abatement Subcommittee, which is really just a liaison with Caltrans and what they're doing to keep our freeways, on-ramps, and off-ramps in good condition. And I reported out last time that the governor was proposing a $1 billion infusion of cash. It's $1.1 billion. It's already in the budget. We're in District 11, which is San Diego and Imperial County. And from July 1st to February this year, Caltrans has picked up 41,200 cubic yards of trash from freeways and on and off ramps and adjacent properties, which, to give a comparative analysis, it's enough to cover the San Diego Zoo, fill 1,100 school buses, or cover 77 football fields. They're still looking for volunteers for Adopt a Highway. We're all familiar with that. They prefer the contract crews, so if you belong to a nonprofit and you want to sponsor one of those, they will arrange for a contract service to come in to liaison with your group. They are pulling in a lot of garbage, and the aforementioned volume was from City of San Diego and a couple of South Bay areas. So far, they haven't come up to North County, and there are no plans to come up here at this time. There's a statewide beautification program. State Route 78 in Vista is targeted for landscaping and hardscape improvements, primarily on and off ramps. I asked, no plans for San Marcos. Apparently, we look good enough as we are. And there was a program before COVID, some of you might remember I talked about this, where people that were assigned probation as a result of a criminal adjudication, they were afforded the option for community service, and part of that is what we used to see them out on the roadways picking up trash. So that was brought back in once COVID subsided. Imperial County has had it effectively underway since February. San Diego County, for whatever reason, are dragging their feet, but they announced that pre-COVID they had 70 people out during the weekdays and up over 100 on weekends picking up trash on our freeways. Supervisor Vargas was attending this meeting, and she's going to try and kickstart this with the county to figure out why we have a delay. So we do have some promise to, we get a lot of our garbage on our major arterials. If you really track it, it's stuff that's being cast off from cars going down the freeway along 78, and it just blows right off onto our surface streets, so they want to work against that. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
I have
Any
a
other-
question.
Yes.
Did I understand you correctly that there's no plans for them to use any of that money to come up to North County, that it's all going to be used in San Diego? Why would that be, if that's what I heard?
There are no plans, excuse me, at present to bring, they call it a community cleanup project.
Okay.
So they partner with the jurisdictions. They partnered with National City. I think their mayor was on TV a few weeks ago. They partnered with Chula Vista and the City of San Diego. We have not been approached, we've not been asked, and I asked specifically if there was a plan to come up here, and they said no.
Well, I think we need to have Michelle look into that because I would love to see that.
Seems like some of that money.
Gustavo Dorado, Caltrans.
It just seems like to have that
Yes.
much money that they should come to North County.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
I actually
thanks.
saw someone throwing trash outside their car the other day. I was so upset. I wanted to roll down my window and road rage, and then I thought, wait, you can't do that. But it was pretty upsetting because it was literally a whole bag full of just stuff. Just put it out her window and threw it on the ground. I don't know why that is. Anyway, anything else? Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.